Hello, hello, hello.
Y-
Who are you?
God, no, are you supposed to say it first?
All right, well, I'm Timothy Hall.
I'm Gina Beavers, and welcome to Unstretched. Is that
Oh,
good?
good voice. Yeah, that's a really good one.
I didn't
Sort
know. I
of
didn't know what was
shrill, but not
coming
too
out.
shrill.
I think it sounds like she wants to be an opera singer. I don't know. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, well, here we
Well,
are.
we haven't managed to figure out our intro yet.
I think that's going
Well,
to be like the
yeah,
the
work
sort
in
of
progress.
standard work in progress. Every week, it's going to be like, wait, how do we sort of
Right.
introduce this
And,
podcast?
and can we do it in the most cringe-inducing way so that people are alienated in the first minute, especially artists who don't like any kind of,
I'm
awkwardness.
starting to feel very cringe altogether about this podcast. I don't know why, because I
Yeah.
feel I feel like I feel like there's something about like having a podcast and talking about art that is
Yeah.
both really cool and really cringe both at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like there's a part of me that would absolutely like hate what we're doing if I wasn't doing it, but a part of me
Yeah.
that loves what I'm doing because I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like as soon as we stop recording and I like go off into my day, I'm like all I want to do is work. I'm just like, oh God, I'm sick of talking about art. I just want to make art. I'm
That's how
like,
I
what?
feel.
Right. It's like, and I think we're gossiping in this way, or we're talking about all the stuff that's kind of like, in some ways, like beside the point, So it's like not. I don't know. In some ways, it's really germane, but in other ways, like it has not a lot to do with just like being in the studio and working. Like I don't know.
No,
Am
but
I
what's
being
interesting is like most of the feedback I am getting from people is that they like that we're just sort of talking about art and art practice and like real life stuff. But
Yeah.
they also like that it is kind of like also a little cringy too, that we're like being a little vulnerable, a little revealing, a little like I actually got my first hate mail this week. Someone sent
Oh
me an
God.
anonymous Instagram message that was like, "You suck."
Oh my
And
God.
that I have two minds about that. Part of me feels like, okay, you're right, I do suck. That's fine.
No,
But I'm also
no, no.
no, but I mean, of course, to someone, I probably do suck,
We
and that's
all
totally
suck. At some level, we all suck.
yeah.
So, I
But when you
mean,
put
that's
yourself
not
out in
the
a public
deepest.
way like we're doing, you have to expect
Yeah.
that there are going to be people who are going to hide behind anonymity and tell you something awful. Um, and I can handle that, but I've done a lot of work to be able to handle that because I preternaturally do not want to be in the public eye in any way. And because I've had a lot of instances in the past where I felt like I was exposed or vulnerable and then was sort of attacked in some way. And it has made me often very wary of being overly public. But I feel like what we're doing is better than my fears of that. So I need to overcome it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like who are we pissing off? Pissing off the people who don't want to hear, a woman and a gay man speak their mind. I mean,
Yeah.
those
Well,
people would be pissed and anyone sort of vaguely in the art world who doesn't want to hear. There's all sorts of Venn diagrams of people who don't want to hear us talking.
sure.
And I mean, there's also just like the casualness of it. Like, if you want really, really deep intellectual conversation, like it's probably not the podcast for you. Like, because
Hey, come on.
I mean, I dance around some thoughts and I bring manage to put a couple things together, but it's not like, it's not like the October podcast. Like, and I feel like that's sometimes there's a whole category of people in the art world that if you're not going to speak at that level, then they're not interested. Like the idea that we would
Yes.
do something casual is like problematic probably for some people,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Actually, that would have been problematic to me at another point in my life. I would have been like, "This is
Yeah,
not serious enough." I'm very
right,
serious, but
right,
I feel like
right.
now I'm more like, well, actually part of the problem, a lot of the problem in our world is that it does take itself too seriously, and that's too alienating, and that's too, people think they're too cool for this or too cool for that or too smart for this or too smart for that, and that can be very alienating to everybody, and that makes me sad.
Yeah.
I feel like we're
Yeah,
fighting against.
absolutely.
But also, you
Yeah,
you said,
totally.
like, as a woman and as a gay man, and that is also part of my sort of reticence about being so public, is that when I was younger, like in middle school and high school, I was very, very, very severely gay bashed and gay harassed, like to the point of feeling like I was living under constant like wartime. And that sort of taught me early on to like not be vulnerable, not be open, not be visible, not be seen, don't be heard, because people hated me for the mere fact that I was existing. I wasn't like wearing a shirt that said I'm gay, come attack me, but I, that just by opening my mouth or just by my mere presence of being a weirdo, people would, I mean, it was severe. Like I had to hide in the bathroom for half the day, and people were throwing little knives, like X-Acto knives at me, and calling me names and beating me up. And it was terrible. And, I feel like that feeling of possibly being attacked for just being who I am and just having my voice is still there. And so it does take a lot to sort of be open, like in this kind of conversational space, in this kind of public space. But I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself over the years to be more proud of who I am and more open and allow myself to be vulnerable and heard, and that feels good. So I want to continue to step into that space and not let haters sort of make me feel like I need to shrink back.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's partly why we have to do it, Like I think, I mean, my shyness and everything is totally different, but it is sort of this reinforced kind of quietness, like I was the girl in class that never said a word. Like it just was like little mouse girl. And to have any, and then also to come into the art world sounding like I sound, which is like kind of like a basic bitch. I have this like valley girl, like blah, 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 like I definitely, um, I don't know. I'm just present in a certain way, and I think people don't want to. It's just like you want to disregard that, but that's like at a totally different level than what you've experienced growing up, But you have so many great things to say, and you guide so much of this conversation, um, and I've had so many people come up to me and be like, Tim, I mean, to the point of like, my friends just being like, Tim said this great thing and Tim was this. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And any, so I mean, it's, the, pa- the past
Yeah.
is, you're definitely, you know,
Yeah. Well, it
yeah,
was hard. I moved back to my hometown here in 2018, and I had a lot of reservations about it because this was a town where when I would walk down Main Street, someone would yell faggot out the window or like throw like a soda can at me. And so I was like, well, why am I moving back here? And I moved back here feeling actually pretty confident and okay, but I became publicly involved with a lot of land trust issues and like development issues, and people attacked me. Like I people made fake Facebook posts like of things I said, or people made a fake Facebook page for my house and like pretended like it was an Airbnb. And I had a lot of online harassment in like 2020, and but that made me shrink back and sort of get less involved because it triggered a lot of those old feelings of like, up here I am putting myself out in the world, and the
yeah,
world is attacking me in these ways that I can't like defend myself from, so to speak. And it's tough, but you got to
yeah,
keep
no, totally.
bobbing back up. I'm not going to stay small and stay shrunk. um yeah, not going to do it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, no, totally. And you have to wonder, like somebody who would set up like an anonymous account to troll based on anything that we've said. It's like
But we have
extremely
to be
disturbed
careful
for,
because now that
you
we're
know.
doing this publicly, we are open to scammers. Like that's an issue I wanted to raise because I feel like
Oh yeah, yeah,
there's so
yeah.
many art world scams going on right now, and almost every couple of days I see someone posting, like a gallery or a more famous artist who's like, this email is not from me, like I'm not sending
Yeah.
these emails, because there's this scam where someone's sending out emails pretending that they're like Inka Essenhigh, for instance, saying that
Oh
she's
yeah.
curating a show and she wants you to be in it, and this is what you have to do. And I also noticed that Chris Sharp Gallery was fished in this way, that someone was sending out like all these fake emails, like as if it was Chris Sharp saying, I love your work, I want to put you in a show. And of course, if you get that email, you're going to be like, wow, Chris Sharp like loves my artwork, this is amazing. So of course, like, your ego is going to come up, or your desperation or whatever, your excitement. So it's so easy to possibly fall into one of those scammers' traps. I mean, if Inka Essenhigh actually emailed me and said she wanted to like put my work in some show she was curating, I would be so excited, you know? And so it's so mean. I feel like this scamming is like the meanest fucking scamming I could think of, because it really does prey on someone's name and someone's value, but then also other people's vulnerability and sort of desperation. And it makes me really angry, but I don't know what we can do about it.
Yeah, and what is the scam though? Is it just like a form of catfishing where they then get a relationship with you and try to get you to send them money, or like you send your, cuz like how does it develop? Like I don't understand the whole
I
like
think a lot of
thinking
them
behind
are
it.
are they're sort of different, but the one that I think that Inka Essenhigh had posted that was a scam was,
Yeah.
it was
The
some kind of like NFT, like that she was curating some NFT show, and you had to like, submit this or that, and then probably if you did it, there was probably like, oh well, pay me fifty
a fee.
dollars or
Right.
fee
Right.
or
Okay.
something like that in the
Yeah, yeah,
end.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And
It
it was the same with
sucks.
the Chris
Yeah.
Sharp Gallery. And also Bomb
Yeah.
Magazine posted that someone was sending out these fake emails that they were Bomb Magazine, saying that
Uh,
Bomb wanted to include your work in a piece, but you had to pay whatever, whatever. And it just is like, why are scammers coming after like the art world? It's like, that just makes me, I mean, sure, there's money in the art world, of course, so they're following the money, but also it's like, leave us alone. Like, we've got enough bullshit to deal with, that we, don't have to deal with, like, we've got the
serious.
people who are all like the coaches and shit. That's one thing to deal with. But now you've got like scammers. It's another thing to deal with. Like, a
Totally.
fool and their money are soon
No.
parted.
No, well, and so my mom is an artist, she in Northern California, and she was like, Gina, I need to discuss this opportunity that someone reached out to me about. And so she got very serious. Like we, arranged a phone call. What is an NFT? And I was like, okay, wait. Well, just read me the email, just read me the email that you got. And she was like, because I really don't think I want to do this. And I'm like, you don't have to do this. Like, it's actually a scam, But I think about my mom, older people, older artists, like, I don't know. It's yeah, they're vulnerable to this kind of thing.
Well,
So
and I
yeah.
mean, there was about maybe a decade ago a lot of scam, and I got them too. I'm sure you got them, which was an email that was like from someone who's like, I'm a collector and I want to buy this painting for my wife's birthday. And I really like your work. And I looked at your website, and can you send me the prices of, my budget's $20,000 or something. And it was some shipping scam. Like they get you to like
Mhm.
prepay some kind of shipping, and then they,
I think they pay for all the work with a check, and then when you go to deposit the check, um, like there's something where it appears to clear in your account, and then
Right, but then you have to
withdrawals.
pay a fee. It's like, oh, if just pay us $5,000 and the check will clear or something like
Right,
that.
you
Like,
have to pay thousands of dollars. Yeah, it's
right.
like a big scam. It's like the classic, I mean, we used to call them Nigerian scams, which sounds kind of wrong and racist. Like, I don't know anything, whether they originated in Nigeria or whatever. But yeah, those were the and that, like, at a certain point in your career to get an email like that is, like, not outside the realm of possibility
No.
that
Yeah,
would be like,
totally.
buy multiple works and you're just kind of feeling like, "Well, I could do this outside a gallery, like, this feel" and I could see that it could, yeah, get people, you
Yeah.
know,
My aunt
that's
fell for one of those. I don't know if I've talked about my aunt Nancy before, but she was an artist who had gone to Yale and studied with Joseph Albers, and she was like she also studied with Hans Haacke. She had a great like sort of early influences in art, and her work was always very like abstract, geometric kind of stuff. And she mostly made her living as an interior designer and interior decorator, but she always pursued painting. But she died at 93 a couple of years ago, and she always had like little shows in New York at like at the Atlantic Gallery or like those sort of like pay to play kind of galleries. But she, towards sort of the end of her life, someone had sent her one of those like scams of like, pay for the shipping of all this artwork, and she thought it was such a great opportunity, and finally someone was like going to buy like a bunch of work, and she started the process, and I think she did lose a little bit of money, but I did get involved, and I was like, no, like, stop. I'm sorry to tell you, Aunt Nancy, this
yeah,
is it was so
it's not
painful to tell her that she was
yeah.
that this dream come true was like actually a scam.
Yeah. It's
And
so
that
wild though.
really breaks my heart.
Totally. If you think about the Chris Sharp, the bomb, I mean, are they purely going off of like followers on Instagram to figure out like who is actually reputable, or how do they figure out the art world enough to know that this seems like somebody to pretend to be? I don't know, because the art world
I have
feels so
really
like kind of
I have a really sinking feeling, and this is a little cynical, that it could be someone
yeah,
in the art who's like,
in
you
the
know
art
what?
world.
I'm
Yeah.
cynical. I want to
Yeah.
make a ton of
Yeah.
money. People are
Yeah.
stupid. People are desperate. Like, it's just too. There's something about it that seems too insidery. Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
Chris Sharp
Yeah.
is not a big gallery. Chris Sharp is still an
Yeah.
independent,
Yeah.
small sort of,
Right.
small business. It's not like
Right.
it's someone's
Right.
trying to pretend like there's Werner or something.
Yeah, I don't know, it's that part is interesting, like, I
Yeah.
wonder, yeah,
That's
how
what
deep
makes me
this
feel like it could
goes.
be like a weird inside job or
Yeah,
something.
I get those emails that are like, Joseph Bob, it's like always 2 first names, and then it's like,
Yeah.
"I love your artwork, like, what's for sale?" And you look at the picture and it's like some white guy off the internet, man of a certain age. This is what a collector looks like. So there's an aspect to it where I feel like it's probably not from the US, but I don't know. Yeah, I
Something I
get
miss
those.
about not having a gallery though that represents me right now is that usually if I would get things like that, I would just send it to the gallery and be like, is this real? Do you want to handle it? Because I
Right,
don't
right,
want to handle stuff. Like I don't want to be selling out of the gallery. Like
right,
I
right,
don't want to be dealing with that stuff. Like
right,
and
right.
so I actually basically ignore or erase almost everything that comes to me unless it's really kind of vetted in some way because it's not worth it getting
I
pulled into
know,
a
and it's
scam.
also like you can't respond to those because I have a little, copy and paste that's like, "Oh, please contact so and so at the gallery," whatever. And I will just copy and paste that into those emails just to be safe or whatever. But the
Yeah.
minute you respond to them, then they respond to you again. So then it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, thank you for getting back to me." And you're like, "That's not what this is." But so it's like a yeah, it
Yeah.
sucks. It really,
When scammers would
this,
call my house, my dad would answer the phone and like talk to them for a long
yeah,
period of time and they would end up hanging
yeah,
up.
that's
Because my
amazing.
dad
That's
is like so
amazing.
impossible to scam because he's so so friendly, but not gonna part with whatever money, but like he'll like wear that person down just in like, how's the weather in Johannesburg right now? Really, your mother lives in Cape Town. Well, has she gone to this, museum there? But like, so I don't have to worry about that with him.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you're never gonna. Yeah, the podcast that like everyone has to listen to after our podcast is the one about AI called Shell Game. And the first season, he creates this clone of himself and he sets his clone on scammers, so
Ah,
the scammers call and his AI will answer. And the AI will just like go and talk, do kind of the same thing as your dad, but like he doesn't have to deal with them, and that you can tell the scammers are kind of like, huh, like who is this, a real person or not? It's
yeah. A
yeah,
number of years ago, Ethan Greenbaum posted some images of him having long conversations with these shipping art shipping scammers, and it was hilarious. Like he would really play their game for like he was like long conning them and like wasting their time, which I think was kind of brilliant.
yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking
Yeah,
of AI, I
well,
watched Terminator movies the other day, and they scared the living daylights out of me.
wait, which Terminator movies?
I watched
You
Terminator
broke up
1,
a
the
little.
like original from 84, and then Terminator 2 from
Yeah,
91, which of course I saw them all like a million times when I was younger, but I hadn't seen them as an
yeah,
adult. And I'm like, wow, the message of this is that AI actually is going to come and destroy us all. That's the
yeah,
message.
yeah. That's amazing. You were feeling, yeah. Well, so one of the things this week that's not obviously art world related, although it's world like fundamental, it was the moon, going around the moon. Did you take in
Yeah,
any of
beautiful.
that?
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, it was
Because
quite elegant.
you said Terminator, and they call the line that goes across the line of shadow that goes across the moon the Terminator. And when they were speaking live, I know it's so, because I was like, what the hell are they talking about? But when they were speaking live, which was just so mind blowing and describing what they were seeing, they were saying they were obsessed with the Terminator because the shadow
Mm.
across the moon, they could see all the topography really well. Like they could get such a sense of depth and stuff like that because of the shadow. And I was thinking, yeah, artists, shout out to artists. We all know this, like this, it was just really, but yeah, really astounding. I don't know, that is
I'm
like,
inspired by Sarah Connor from The Terminator. I think she's like the most badass woman that ever lived, at least in the first two. I've never seen any of the other ones, but like I'm just re-obsessed with her on like many levels.
so amazing, so amazing. Well, and we were talking a little bit. I was saying, speaking of characters from movies and art, like Naiad, the movie with Jodie Foster plays the coach, and Annette Bening is Diana Naiad, who is the swimmer who swam from Cuba to Florida. Um,
Right.
that movie is relatable as an artist because
Really?
it's like
Why?
you're driven to do this thing. Like
That's insane.
she's like completely, well, just like this idea of never giving up, just like a completely indomitable spirit that's like, you know what? I tried when I was young. I'm in my 60s still. I want to give it another try. She's stung by jellyfish like the entire, like she's completely sunburned and red. She swims for like 60 hours straight through, what is that? The Gulf of Mexico, or like what? Yeah. Like really treacherous, like in terms of sea life and, but I was thinking when because I had seen it a couple years ago, like not only like the idea that you could have a female role like that, like it's kind of like a role for a woman that you've never, I can't think of another role like that where a woman is just is allowed to be so unbelievably unrelenting. I mean, it's unrelenting. That's what
Well,
it
it's like
is.
Sarah Connor in The Terminator.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made me think of it. But I remember thinking also that this is kind of like a good role model for an artist because you just have to have this single-minded, unrelenting. And yeah, it looks different for everyone and you have life stuff that goes on and but just this idea like that you're never giving up, which you know, who knows? We could
Yeah, that reminds me of Discord from RuPaul's Drag Race, the current season. He's a drag queen who just will not hear criticism, but not like in a oh, like I'm above that, but he just is so like delusional that he's so amazing and so has such a great vision that like he just doesn't agree with the criticism, and he just like keeps going, and he got really really far in Drag Race on I think his sort of like delusion alone. And so I do think there's something to be said too for also just being tenaciously deluded of your own vision and your own desire, and just like really can't hear if ends or buts about it.
Yeah, I think it's tough in the art world too. I mean, with Drag Race, it's like you are going to get criticism and you're going to, you're either going to be in a lip sync or you're not, or, like there's these definitive markers. And in the art world, it's just like the failure is kind of like the silence, but it could also just be, like there is no definitive, like you're cut, and so, that's what's tricky about the art world is like knowing, because there's so many times when it's like, you want to like learn from failure, but it's like you don't know that you've actually failed necessarily. You're just like, you don't know how you're failing. You don't know like how to fix it or how to make it better or how to, it's like because it comes in such a like just a space of nothingness. So you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, obviously everything that I was doing was not working, but like, I don't know. It's just a really tricky thing to figure out, I think,
Well,
but
there's so many different levels of what success and or failure look like, and
yeah,
often they look the same, or they're sort of like mirror images of each other in
yeah,
some capacity. I mean, like on the superficial face of it, if you have like an exhibition, you're like, oh, it was successful because I sold a bunch of stuff and got a bunch of reviews and a lot of people saw it, right? Those are like the three kind of like major superficial things that you say, okay, that was successful. But if those things don't happen, which is really more often the case, then you have to sort of dig deeper and be like, okay, well, actually the success was the fact that I made a body of work, that I actually
mhm,
made a cohesive, beautiful body of work. Or the success was that like my mom really liked it. Or the success was that like, oh, I even had a show anyway, given
anyway,
this,
to begin with. Yeah.
so there's so many different, it's all a matter of like perspective of what how you sort of see it. And I do think we often get caught in the trap of like, oh, the only markers of success are those sort of more market driven ones, or criticism based ones. But really the stuff that's more fulfilling is the actual making and doing and just presenting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think too, like this idea, I just remember struggling a little bit with like, because I never had an issue like getting out and meeting people in the art world in terms of like artists and small galleries and like just kind of doing the downtown art networking thing. I don't know, hanging out. It feels like natural, kind of like go to shows, talk to people, meet people, run into this person, whatever. It's like very, but then I remember having, after my first show, having this like silence where I was like, now what? Like, now how do I meet people in these other, like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, how do I meet more curators? How do I meet more? It's like, it was tough. And I also felt that's when your personhood really comes into it and who you are in terms of like your charisma and also just who you are, like, a woman, a gay man, like how you're going to navigate that world of like meeting people without, yeah, and then how to be pushy without being pushy, like how to
Yeah.
sound. It's like this perfect. I think at one point Jerry Gagosian had posted like a meme that was like that perfectly encapsulated the way that you sort of have to talk at like these events where you have to sound really serious and like serious, like on the verge of talking about your work in like a really deep way, but at the same time let everything sort of like go off your shoulders if someone at the table says something uncouth, because like sometimes you're around people with different politics, especially like, you know, If they're wealthy, they might say something. And so like how do you not like get into an argument with this person at just like how to be and then but be political in just the right way. Talk about politics in just the right way. It's just like this like balancing like tightrope of like how to be. And she had this meme. I wish I'm gonna look for it. Just like this fakeness. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but like, yeah,
Well, one of
it's
the
the
most
thing.
fun things, Gina, that I've done recently was you and I went to Florian Miesenberg's gallery show in Crown Heights the other day. And that was a great opportunity, like meet a
Yeah.
ton of people. I met so many new people at that. I saw so many people I already knew, but I met so many new people. And the vibe of what he's put together there was exactly what Josh Klein was saying he thought didn't exist anymore or needed to happen. And I love that A, Josh Klein was in that show, and B, that Florian put something like that together that felt so like old New York or Berlin 2004 or something like that. That was really like a highlight of the past
Yeah,
week
that
for
was
me.
really fun. It was great. Yeah, we were in that room with like a B. Wirtz and David Humphrey and Henry Gunderson. Yeah, there
Oh,
were
the Henry
just
Gunn painting is like
yeah,
beyond the amazing.
yeah.
That just I'm like it's mesmerizing to me.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah, and
fun.
like
I mean, it reminded me of Apartment Show. Do you remember? Because I was in all
I
these
do.
shows with
Oh, I
like
loved Apartment Show.
Josh Klein and
Apartment Show is
Annika.
the best.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
that was they had it was apartments that people were moving out of or had moved out of. Like, so you're moving out of an apartment, you're moving into another one, and maybe you have the space for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever. There's like a
right. It's
gap in between.
empty.
Even if it's like 5 days, they would do it was a
Right.
couple days. They would mount a show in those couple days before the new tenants moved in. It was such a great idea. Yeah. But yeah, not sustainable forever. I mean, a lot of like logistics, I would
Yeah.
think.
Well, eventually you burn out of that kind of, like there's so much logistic in that kind of a thing that,
Yeah.
you kind of, it's hard to really sustain unless you're constantly passing the baton around. But like I just love the energy of what Florian had put together at that space and bringing all these different age groups together too. Like there were so many young artists, middle-aged artists, older artists, all like in this huge weird space, and the range of also the age of the artists included in the show was really sort of a wide one. And there was like video art, like Gregory Caliche had like a video in like a heating duct, and Michael Asif like connected like these metal sculptures to the electrical outlets, like a lot of weird like experimental use of the space too, which was very exciting. And it just felt like, wow, this is like New York is still awesome. Like weird cool shit is actually still going on. You just have to put your ear to the ground and kind of hear about it, or
Yeah, no,
figure it
it's
out.
definitely it's always happening for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. I went that same night, like I was late getting there because I went to so it was like a program through Neon, the film company or the filmmaker, for the Christophers, which is the movie with Ian McKellen and Michaela Cole, where he plays an artist. Ian McKellen is like an aging artist, and then I think his children are trying to like make copies of his work so when he dies they can cash in. And I think they hire her to like learn how to copy his work, basically be his studio assistant.
That's
What?
cynical.
Yeah, so it's Soderbergh, which Steven Soderbergh is the director, which I just love that he's done stripper movies and now he's doing an art movie. But they had this like discussion program with Ian McKellen at like 4, Jerry Saltz, and then Ajay Kurian, who's an artist, also does the interviews for New Crits. He interviewed the screenwriter, and then the last one was artist assistants was the topic, and he had Ian Chang, Darren Bader, and Jamian. Jamian. I'm just gonna say Jamian Villani. Jamian. Yeah,
Annabelle. Yeah.
yeah. Um, But, yeah, so that I missed the first 2 because I couldn't get out of the studio, but I got to the last one, and that was pretty fascinating because they were all talking about so Ajay had worked for Banks Violet, and then Ian Chang had worked for, like, Pierre Hugues, and also Paul Chan, and then Darren Bader had worked for Urs Fisher. Jamie had worked for Dana Schutz and Eric Parker, and they were just talking about what it was like to work in these studios and what they learned, and like it was really pretty great. I mean, the thing, in the end, they described all these experiences and the huge budgets and the this and that. And then at the very end, we're talking about how all of these studios or this scale of production is like hanging by a thread financially. Like that one thing not selling can just, that these projects are not, none of these businesses are stable, and nobody is stable in the long-term sense. It's just like project to project and hoping that things work out. And in fact, some of them have scaled back their production and different things over the year. Anyway, I just thought that was a really interesting tidbit. And Darren Bader was saying, like, why don't galleries take more responsibility for sort of shepherding artists financially in terms of like financial literacy, and like, you did really well with the show, but this is probably not gonna last, and you should put it in the bank, and draw on that. Why don't galleries step up a little bit more in terms of like informing their artists, like what this, yeah, financially could look like over the next 5, 10 years, which I thought was really, yeah,
Gina, did
interesting.
you ever work for an artist? Were you ever an artist assistant?
No, but I did have assistants. Did you ever work for an artist?
I did. I only worked for one artist in grad school. Like one day a week, I worked for Elizabeth Huey, who had a studio.
Oh,
She's
yeah, yeah,
painted.
yeah.
She had a studio in Williamsburg, and there was like, I learned so much from her. Just I was only there one day a week for maybe like a year, but I did learn a lot about, she was very busy at the time. And so I learned a lot about like shipping out artwork and about like just the general sort of politics of like dealing with collectors, dealing with galleries, dealing with just being an artist in the studio, like the real, like really doing it. And so that's sort of the stuff that I learned from her. But then no, then I never. After that, I never worked for an artist after her.
Yeah, I worked for a couple artists, I guess, just like a day here or there. Like they needed some help, like in grad school. I helped an artist drive her artwork from, yeah, across a bunch of my, like put it in a truck and drive it somewhere. I don't know, but I never worked like, yeah, I just couldn't. I think that was one of
Did
the
you ever
things.
work in the gallery system? Did you ever have like a job in a
No,
gallery?
so that I knew when I was getting out of grad school, like I can't handle like working in a gallery. I was just like, I don't think that I don't know if I could be that close, but so far. And like, but I probably should have, because I feel like that's a good way to like meet people in the art world, because that was one of the things.
To really learn the business of it too.
Yeah, it's true. And that was one thing we were talking about, is like some of these gigs that they had gotten. I mean, sometimes I get emails from people like, if you ever need an assistant, please consider me. So I think that's somehow you could get an assistant job by just sort of like cold calling your favorite artists and seeing what happens.
Yeah,
But some of it was, through people. So Darren Bader got his, working for Urs Fisher through people, like knowing people working in the art world and knowing people to get those jobs. You can't just like send a resume. Like, I don't know. And I think that that's what I was missing, was like, I didn't have any way. I would have gladly worked for an artist if I could have figured out how to make that
well,
happen,
also
but I
working
didn't
for
know
an
anybody.
artist can sometimes be very advantageous to you in your own art career, because I know so many people who've worked for artists who got big opportunities because they worked for such and such an artist. Like some artists are
Oh,
very generous and they'll introduce their assistants to other dealers or to collectors. And I feel like that many artists I know have had careers because they worked for other more successful artists.
yeah, for sure. I've also heard, um, have a friend, I think you may know this person too, who had a whole suite of works acquired by the Whitney, and then immediately lost their job with the artist they were working for. because the artist was like, "Oh, excuse me, you just had an entire okay, well, you can't work for me anymore. Like, basically, you're too much of a risk now," or like
Yeah, yeah,
you're
funny.
I don't know. So, yeah, no, but
But
absolutely.
I also know artists who worked in galleries for a long time, and that was a good career stepping stone because they really learned like how the market works. They really learned like who collectors are. They really learned like what sells, what doesn't, why it sells, why it doesn't sell. You know, like I mean, it's a little more cynical, but I feel like they've been successful because they had a really deep understanding of how the gallery world really works.
Yeah,
So
for
those are
sure.
different
Well,
ways that
and
artists,
this
I think, can gain entree into careers is either by working in galleries or working for artists.
yeah, for sure. One of they were talking about things that they had learned from working from these big artists. Ian Chang was saying like Pierre Hugues would like protect his time like in the mornings. He wouldn't have anyone show up until like 11 or 12 because he would work just by himself in the,
Mm.
every day in the morning, which I thought was like a really interesting thing. And there was some, I think maybe Paul Chan was like very big about saying no, like just like one word emails to people who would ask him to do things and he would just be like, no. So
No
we
is
were
a
kind of
complete
talking
thing.
about that. Yeah, but Darren and I were talking about that, and, like, you hear that. You do hear that in the art world is, like, saying no, and maybe that I think that there is a certain power in that, like, I was thinking about when we were having the real estate conversation, like, some of the people who have big real estate, you know, that money enables you to say no to things in a way that can like maybe be advantageous to your career so that you can only say yes to the things that you really want to do. 'Cause
I've
sometimes
said
maybe
no to things that
yeah,
then I realized became big things. And I'm like, oh shit, I actually should have said yes to that because that actually was got like a New York Times review or something.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I feel like there have been times where I have said no to things and really regretted it. So, I always really have to think I have to really search deep down in my heart if this is gonna be a real hard no or not.
No, I mean I do kind of think that
It's a
idea of
luxury to be able to say no, by the way.
yeah, I think there is a certain instinct for like, do I want to do this? Like, is this something I really want to do? Like, do I have the time and energy to do this? Like, and am I going to feel like it pays off in any way that, whatever level that is, whatever that means to you? And like saying no when you just are really like, but I definitely, like, Darren and I were just discussing, like, it's a lot easier to say, just say no to things. But actually,
Yeah.
when people ask you to do things, he yeah, I mean, I say yes to a lot of stuff that I partly am like, I want to see what this is. I mean, sometimes it's just out of curiosity or like sometimes I've done shows in places because I just wanted to travel there. Like I'm just like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I think there is a level of it's very easy to be like, say no to things, but then people can also stop asking. I mean, it depends. It's a tricky thing. You never
Yeah,
know.
because if if like a friend keeps asking you to go out and do something and you always say no, eventually they're going to
Yeah.
stop asking you to do something,
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
like
mean,
you do have to really balance like when is the no really
right.
coming from a true deep place or it's I mean that's just the knowledge I think that comes with life, but
Yeah, for sure. Like I got asked to do something like a show or like be in a group show that was like in Jersey and it was the kind of thing where it was like if I had time or if I had work that would just seamlessly where I could just send them something, it would have been fine. But it was like I would have had to extend myself in a certain kind of way and I was just like I don't feel like pushing myself for this
yeah.
particular thing. And I
But
think
there have
that's
been
like
times I said yes to things and I kind of
yeah.
regretted it at the time. But then many years
Yeah,
later, something came out of that. And I was like,
out
oh,
of
I'm
the
so glad that I did that. So, in a
yeah,
way,
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of have this feeling that there's like no mistakes, that like everything
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
do or don't do is kind of meant to
Right,
be in the
right,
panoply of your life. And so, you just
right.
say no or say yes and then just accept whatever happens.
No, exactly.
Everything is happening
Sometimes I've
perfect.
said sometimes I've had the sense that certain things are not gonna, like, be great. Small artworks for this art fair or something like that, and taking them on the plane. it's going to be, and I'm just like, this feels like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel I have a intuition that this is not, and then nothing sells, and it was like a lot of work, and I'm just like, but yeah, yeah, you can't take it back. And it wasn't all bad if somebody saw your work and you were in a certain space, like, but I
Totally.
do have intuition about things. Like, I know this is not, going to be
I just want
anything,
to add
but
something that I forgot, that I actually did work in a gallery for one day.
oh, really? One day.
I worked at 303 Gallery for one day
Oh,
after
oh my
grad
God.
school because I was so desperate for a job. And I was like, and someone I knew was working there, and they needed a front desk person. And I was like, well, I could do that. I love talking to people. I
Yeah.
could talk about art or whatever. And so they had this, job, and I went to work, on a Saturday, and they were like, okay, don't talk to anyone, don't, like, sit here, and if anyone asks you anything, just refer to, like, a director or something. And I got yelled at like 5 times that day, like, because I had my jacket on the back of my chair, or I had like a cup of water out, or I said too much to a certain person. And after that one day, I said to Lisa Spellman, who ran the gallery, I was like, I actually can't work here because it's just not the right environment for me. And and I kind of think that's funny that I never bothered to like work in a gallery ever again because I didn't think it was for me. But
Yeah.
um, I kind of
Yeah.
wish that I did because I love talking about art, and I think it would have been fun. But they didn't want a front desk gallerino to be talking about artwork, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I worked at this place, Photofolio, which was like a postcard company. Like if you go to like a museum shop, they make half the, actually the collectors themselves, the owners of the company were collectors, and they, particularly in photography, so lots of Cindy Sherman. So they own Man Ray's and Cindy Sherman, and really important photography. So like this was in the late 90s, like I don't know, 97 or something. And I remember I was like the front desk. I was like the receptionist. I used to wear the craziest, like when I think about what I wore to work in like 1997 and like how kind of slutty it was, like I can't
Ooh.
believe that but like really short skirts and like crazy. I didn't know how to dress for like a corporate, like anything like that. So I think like, wow, that's wild. But then I remember Wolfgang Tillman's coming in. So this was like 97. I mean, this is the height of, not only the height, of him just like taking off and becoming a superstar, but also like he was young. He looked so like German and young and cool, and like, and I was like, oh my God, like, and the whole office was in a tizzy. Wolfgang is coming in. Wolfgang is coming in. I'm like, ugh. Anyway, there were things like that about that job that felt sort of art world-y. And then I applied to grad school and got into the Art Institute like 97, 98 at the end of that year. And I went because I would do all of these sales. It's kind of like what am I trying to say? Like a trade show, like a gift show, but like for postcards, because they did art books, and we would do these trade shows that we did this trade show every year in Las Vegas. And they had, at that point, they had pushed me into say I was like a salesperson, which is like also ridiculous. Like, don't put me, I mean, I'm a terrible, how am I going to sell anything? And they were like, well, you're going to fly to Las Vegas and do this trade show. And I had just gotten into the Art Institute. And this is like the 90s again. So you got me a ticket 3 months from now, but I'm going to be in Chicago at school. So I'm going to tell you, because it's probably going to cost you a lot of money to change that ticket. This is how naive I am. So I tell you 3 to 4 months before, I'm not going to be working here. And they fired me like that day. They were like, okay, well then go. I was like, shit. So then I'm like in New York for like 3 or 4 months, like trying to get gigs to like pay my rent before I go to grad school. Anyway, so that sucked. And they were like, well, you just seem
Did you
like you don't
see
have
that
your mind.
list of how many jobs Agnes Martin had? Someone
Yes, I
sent
love
me, a
that.
couple of people sent me this list of like all the jobs that Agnes Martin had, and some of them are total bullshit. Like I
Yeah.
think she's kind of like pulling this guy's leg a little bit. But some of them were really great.
Uh-huh.
Like she packed ice cream.
She what? Oh,
She
you
packed
broke up.
ice cream and like, you know, cut flowers. But if you wanted to, I could sit down and probably come up with 60 odd jobs I've had since I was, 15 or 16 over the years. Like I've done weird shit like cut flowers for a flower garden with immigrants. Like I've done, just weird jobs of like cleaning up garbage on the side of the road, whatever, like flyering stuff. Like we all, I mean, like I name one artist who hasn't had a bunch of weird jobs. I mean, it just
Are
sort
you
of comes with
serious though? Tim, I know artists who have never worked a job.
what
Throws down the mic.
I
I
don't,
do.
I don't, I don't
Yes.
believe that they
I know
exist.
artists who never worked.
Well, sure, there's
No,
probably
they
some
came
artists
out
who,
of school.
right, grad school, okay, but even before grad, maybe when they were in grad school, they had to have a job.
I know people who got out of grad school and did not work in New York City, which to me is wild. Like
That is
that's
wild. I don't
nuts.
want to hear about it.
But that's
If that's you,
I
call
know.
in and we'll discuss.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's one thing if you got out of grad school, were selling your art and like made a life, that's one thing. But this is just like, no, I'm mom and dad are supporting me while I am an art, like
But those people, of course, I know those. I definitely know a
yeah.
handful of people who have never worked because they don't need to, whether they're selling artwork or not. Sure, but
Yeah.
they're in a different category. We can't compete with them. That's in
No,
a
I know,
different.
but there are artists with careers, major careers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they skew the whole thing for everybody else. Like, so when people want to, sit down and list all the jobs they had, it's actually like, no, but let's make this a thing, guys. Can we all do this? Because I'm very curious. I
Well,
want,
maybe we should make a post on Instagram where everyone can list all the
yeah.
weird jobs
And
that
I
they've
do
had.
have
So
to say, like, back to, because I think there was a time like 10 years ago where that was a thing we were doing, where we were all, do you remember that when we were all listing our jobs?
no.
Like every job we've ever had. Because I remember seeing Patty Johnson's list of jobs was quite extensive. And like,
Okay.
there are people where you just are like, yeah, people have been hustling for a really long time. Like,
I
yeah,
did manage though to have a good 8-year period where I had this one amazing part-time job at an architecture firm that my cousin Jonathan Marvel owns, and it's a big architecture firm, and he was very nice to give me good employment there for like 8 years part-time so I could work as an artist, and that allowed me to not have like all kinds of weirdo jobs for a period of time, and I'm very grateful and thankful.
great.
Yeah.
Totally. No,
Anyway,
that's really great. I mean, that's why I became a teacher because I felt like I want to be able to do something that is somewhat hands-on and like I can't work in an office like for a long
well, it was
time.
very destroying to work in an office. Believe me, I actually kind of hated every
Yeah.
waking moment of it. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eventually I got enough adjunct teaching jobs that I was able to leave working in the office and just became like an adjunct professor.
Yeah.
But I was teaching like
Yeah.
15 classes a year to make like a living salary, which
Yeah,
is
that's a
insane.
lot.
Do
That's
the math
definitely
on
a
that.
lot.
That really is like, I challenge anyone to tell me they've worked more than 15 classes a year. I'd like
15.
to know. Yeah.
15 classes a year. So that's like 7 classes a semester or something,
What
7
I
or
was doing
8.
is I was doing five classes one semester, 6 classes another
Yeah.
semester, one winter
Okay.
class, and two, if not three,
Okay.
summer
In
classes.
the summer. So all year. Because like when I taught middle school art, it's 700 kids. I'd have 25 classes a week where it's like 5 classes a day. But then we got like summer, we got July and August off. We got all these vacations. Plus you're making like a significant salary and you're getting health insurance.
Yeah.
So it was definitely stressful and exhausting, but it had perks, financially. Yeah.
Now, speaking of artists who had never had jobs, like I wonder if Jasper Johns ever actually had like a job other than being an artist, because he's an artist who got so famous at like 25 years old or something like that, you
Yeah,
know?
probably not. But also it's
And
so
why am I
relative.
bringing up Jasper Johns? I will tell
Oh,
you
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
because I saw the Jasper Johns hatch painting show at Gagosian, which I've been dying to see and very excited about. And they're really wonderful, amazing paintings. And I'm really glad that I got to go. It's also the last show at Gagosian's Madison Avenue space. But I was so distraught and indignant, and it ruined my experience how mean and persnickety the guards are there about how close you can get to the paintings, because so you have the paintings on the wall, then on the floor there's a 1 foot build out, like that pushes the sort of like bottom of the wall further. Then you
Yeah.
have to stand a foot away from that, so you have to be 2 feet away from each of these paintings, which is really quite far. And
Yeah.
any artist worth their salt, any painter, is going to want to look at these paintings really closely because they're encaustic, there's a lot of collage and detail. And so I instinctively need to look at them closely. And every time I would get within like a foot and a half, a guard would yell at me like you can't be more than 2 feet from that painting. And finally, after being yelled at maybe 5 times, I kind of stormed out of there, sort of
Yeah.
yelling about how like this is crazy, and if only Jasper Johns knew, or like and and then after that I went up to the Met to the Raffaello show, which of course I need to have a note that his name is Raffaello and it's not Raphael. That is an anglicized name, and I think that it's important that we call him by the name of which he would have called himself.
Yeah.
I made a post about that. It's a weird thing. It's also like a weird, like, I don't know. But anyway, so I went to the Raffaello show, and there you can go right up to the paintings. You can go within 3 inches of these amazing, priceless masterpieces. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Why at Gagosian you can't go 2 feet to these Jasper Johns paintings, which, by the way, if one got damaged, he is still alive. He could fix it. Raffaello is dead. He cannot fix his paintings. So it just made me even more indignant that like Gagosian has some kind of power play going on, that they're like, forcing you to stay away from these paintings. And it's not because of some kind of weird insurance, because then yesterday I went to Craig F. Starr Gallery, where they have the Jasper Johns flag show, which is like basically the same work, the same stuff. And there, no guards, and you can go right up to the paintings. So it's a Gagosian thing that they're really mean about you approaching the artworks. And I just had to pop off about it on the podcast because it just is so nasty and it's so unnecessary. And it also gave me this idea, and it's just stupid fantasy, but that there should be like an artist pass that you can get from like the International Consortium of Painters. And it allows you to show it when you go to a museum or a gallery. You're allowed extra access to these works of art because, you need to like look at them for professional reasons. And I posted that to Instagram, and I got a lot of feedback of people being like, yes, like if only that was true. Because so many people also got yelled at Gagosian at the Jasper Johns show. And I just wanted to bitch about that for a minute because it really ruined my time. Or the Domenico Gnoli show at Gorvy, Diane, Levy, whoever they are.
Yeah.
That show, you can go right up to those paintings and like put your nose right up to them practically. It just is like, it's unnecessary to have guards like hovering over all of these works and yelling. That's okay. So
I mean,
sorry.
no, the only thing, well, first of all, I love the idea of like a TSA pre-check for artists where you like get free.
Exactly.
That's so good.
Global entry.
But I also think, to me, back to our, all of our experience in the workplace, the fact that the security guards are screaming at you tells me something about the workplace culture of like, they've been told everything is riding on their asses, I bet, the security guards themselves. I mean, I wonder if it's like they're being told, you better, so then it's like you're going to pay for this, like Jasper Johns, if it gets fucked up, who knows what, I don't know. I wonder, that's what I think is like something is trickling down from how people treat each other in that place, maybe.
Well, it was so cool though to see, like right now in New York, there are these 2 Jasper Johns show that you can go see, and to really see like his use of encaustic up close, because nobody uses encaustic except actually Dave Scandavino, who has the show at Klaus von Exagen right now. Those paintings are actually encaustic on leather, which is totally wacky and wild, like materiality. But like no one uses encaustic. It's really unique and sort of interesting.
What
And so,
about Ellen? Yeah, Ellen Gallagher. Doesn't she use
oh, right, Ellen
encaustic?
Gallagher. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also my friend Zachary Armstrong. I think he uses. Were those earlier? What's his name? Oh God, Anton Kern artist. Anyway, I interrupted you.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
clearly people do use encaustic, but it's
oh,
not
okay.
like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
everyday material that you're learning in school. And I actually had a
yeah,
student a
yeah.
couple of years ago who in an advanced painting class was like, I want to do encaustic. And I was like, gee, I don't really know that much about it. So I had to then go and do research, like how do I get this student
How
to
do you?
do encaustic? And I had to,
Yeah,
advise them on like a hot plate and the wax. And so it's sort of inspiring. And I thought, well, maybe I should do encaustic too, but I never got
yeah.
around to it.
No, it's
It's a
really.
great medium.
Yeah, I really love it. When I was at the Art Institute kind of visiting students there, I met a grad student, Wenzel Garcia, who runs or he's one of the people that runs, they have like a lab at SAIC that you can drop in on at any time during the day. And they do, it's just like this massive lab of different materials lab. And they teach you, they have all of these hot plates for like teaching you on encaustic, or you can come in, they post like different tutorials that they're going to lead and all these different materials. And I was like obsessed. Like, I love this place. I wish we had one of these. Can someone set up something like that in New York to teach people how to use like,
Yeah, well, it's hard
uh,
when you're like out of school and you're busy
yeah,
working and whatnot to pick up new materiality. Like your
yeah,
materials. Like I mean, that's something great, Gina, that you've done is you in your own career you've sort of switched through materials and now you're playing with oil paint and
yeah,
you know
trying different.
that
I also take classes. Like I took a Photoshop class at FIT, and I may or may not be taking an AI class right now online. Um,
don't say that. Don't do not say that.
talk about
Bleep
the
that out.
number of anonymous accounts that just started trolling me.
Oh,
Um,
I know.
yeah, it's yeah, but I like to, but it's hard to, it's also still hard to learn stuff. Even when you're highly motivated to learn things, it's like the time that you need to take out of like pursuing certain things to learn it, you really, I don't know. I'm not always good about following through. I found that taking a class at FIT for Photoshop was really helpful because I had to show up. I'm doing this online class at home, and it's like, some weeks I don't. Yeah, no, no.
I mean, I love taking classes. I've always been
Yeah.
taking classes of different stripes my entire life. Botany. I took all the botany classes at the
Oh,
Brooklyn Botanic
cool.
Garden one time.
Yeah.
Like it took Irish language classes at the Irish Cultural Institute for years.
I
Like I've
love
done all
it.
kinds of
Shit, that's so cool.
big nerd over here.
Yeah,
So
no, I love
Gina,
it.
what are there any shows coming up that you want to see that are on your docket?
What am I gonna see? Well, I just like see shows online that I'm like, I wish I could see like the Henry Taylor show at the Picasso Museum in Paris. If anybody's
Mm.
there, they can go see that for me. I don't know. I've just been really in the studio and like trying to figure things out there and been a little bit, um, yeah. What are you?
I am very excited to see Greg Palmer Smith's show at Bridget Donahue
Oh,
or
yes, yes, yes. Oh, I
Donahue
love him.
Hoffman. Yeah. Because
I
that
love
looks,
him.
what I've seen already, it looks totally bonkers. And I'm like, I got to check that out, like IRL.
He's so great. Because he showed at David Lewis for a long time, which is not now closed, but
Yes. Yeah.
I love his
So I'm looking
work. Yeah.
forward But I've seen a lot that like just this past week I saw so many shows like the Raffaello show at the Met was so beautiful. I mean, I'm really familiar with his work through all the years I lived in Italy and Rome and going there so many times over my life. But to see them all like sort of together in person in one sort of big exhibition was really beautiful. His metal point on gessoed paper is so delicate and gorgeous. You get to see a lot of the way he worked in process. I mean, it was the most crowded exhibition I think I've ever been to at the Met. It was sort of like Lollapalooza, that it was like you could practically crowd surf over all the old people. And that was a little annoying because you do want to get up close, and you can get up close. And that's so amazing. Like, here's this painting that's, 600 years old or something, and you can really go right up to it and study it and see what it's all about. And so I really think that any painter worth their salt, no matter what kind of artwork they do, could learn something from the touch and from also the materiality and
Mhm.
the ineffable quality that he brings to facial expressions and to the presence of being.
Mhm.
There's a reason that he's such a pivotal artist.
Yeah, that
And of
sounds
course, I love that Mark Kostabi took a little piece of one of his paintings from the Vatican and put it as the cover of Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion. And that little image of that scribe writing is a teeny little element of a giant fresco in the Vatican that Kostabi just took that little teeny forgotten, unsort of noticed element and made that the album cover for Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion. Go look it up. And
yeah.
like, I remember when I first realized that, I was like, whoa,
Mhm.
like this is so cool, because I love the idea that Kostabi found one of the quietest, most beautiful things going on in this enormous, confusing fresco, and decided to sort of isolate that. And that to me has been a way that I've tried to work in my own painting, as I look at antiquity and I try to take an expression or one little fragment and then blow it up and sort of give it this greater importance, because it's something that maybe had been forgotten and unseen for thousands of years. And my eye is selecting it and deciding to sort of make it important in the contemporary era. And I think that was really inspiring to me.
So interesting. Yeah, that's a really is that also a modern way of looking at these, um, classic works of kind of cropping and taking a portion of like a way that of an abstraction almost? It's almost like a way to abstract the image in a certain way. It's like a way that we can gain access to something, that in some ways is a little bit opaque. Like I find, beyond the painting and the technique, the subjects sometimes like hard to relate to unless it's like El Greco or somebody who's like, I don't know, because they're so religious and so many biblical stories and things like that, that sometimes it's hard for me to access. So, um, I think that's interesting. The
Do you
idea of
remember
taking like,
the
you know,
artist named Don von Glolden, who showed at Green Naftali for a number of years? He was a European artist who was sort of like a mid to later 20th century artist. And his whole sort of body of work was taking like a drip from a Jackson Pollock painting and then enlarging it into this like huge image. Or he would take like one little
mhm,
sort of motif of something and then really expand it really big. And I always found his way of working very inspiring, because it's very image based, but it also is sort of like a fractal of like a fragment of an image that then he's sort of
yeah,
isolating. I mean, Jasper Johns does that too. I mean, I'm like, I sort of consider myself like a child or grandchild of Jasper Johns in a
mhm,
way. That's why I,
mhm.
obsess over his work.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I think, yeah, I'll
What I want
try
to
to
leave
see that.
people
I'm
with
just
is go, if you go see the Jasper Johns show, go see the Raffaello show.
yeah. Right, right, Raffaello. Okay. I'm gonna start saying Raffaello. Also, that draws the line between the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like
Yeah. Well, and also
Raphael.
like we call Michelangelo, we call,
Right,
Giotto
right. Why
Giotto,
wouldn't
like why do they get to
yeah,
keep
it's so
their original?
that is weird. It's really odd.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
found
I
the shows
feel,
that I wanna see. Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, no, what are the shows you want to see?
Oh, I've been wanting to see the Joan Semmel show at the Jewish Museum for like months, and I have that on my list. And also, while I'm up there, I want to see the Carol Bove. And then there's the the Vuillard show is still at Skarstead through April 25th, though, so that's coming down soon.
Yeah.
So
Go read
anyways,
the Manhattan Art Review review of the Carol Bove show. I think it's very hilarious
I
and
don't know.
biting.
I
You
don't
don't know
like that
what?
guy.
You don't like it.
I don't
See,
like that.
I
Well,
love the Manhattan Art
well,
Review because he shoots from the hip. He tells it like he sees it. He like lays it flat there. And yeah, sure, it's crude. It can be a
oh, let
little
me
over the top.
guess. And he just manages to take down the successful women whenever he can.
Oh, is that a
Yeah.
fact? Okay.
So I see through his shit. Well, also he said something or he posted something
No,
about
he
like
took down Sam
identity art.
McInnes. He took down Matt Serletti. In fact, I told Matt Serletti I was going to read the review on the podcast, but I don't have it in front of me because I want to do it. He totally like took down Matt. So I don't think he's necessarily against successful.
I think he covers his ass when he needs to. That let me just say that. Anybody who uses the term identity art, like I see you, why don't you just say DEI? Like anyway, maybe I'm going to bleep this or like but
No, I think that's fine because
I
listen, Gina, you should shoot from the hip on him because he would shoot from the hip on you. So go, bring it.
absolutely. And he has about certain people in a way that, I mean, I get it. It's like, oh, I'm trolling as art criticism. And sometimes I have a point. But he also says things that I'm just like, why does he get away with like being like sometimes he does a good job of, he'll trash, a woman or an artist of color and then come back and like love someone else who is a woman or an artist. Okay. Like he
Right. So
does a good
can
job,
he
but I
actually
would.
dislike something if based on it not like does it like it does maybe
What
it
the
doesn't
hell?
have to do with them being a woman or an artist of color. He just doesn't like the show.
What the hell? Why is he posting about identity art? What does he mean by identity art? And it
That
being
I
like, I just because I that's when you've lost me, and that's when I don't trust you as a
yeah.
critic. And I think
I
there's a
still
lot
find
of
his
bull.
totally, but
There's
I
a
think he
lot of
also
like,
is like calling a lot of bullshit out, which I do appreciate that. I just find it very amusing and entertaining.
yeah,
I sort of read it as like art
no,
criticism
I
as
mean,
entertainment, sort of.
no, I understand, and I know I'm getting way too heated in an uncool way about it.
Good.
Like, but it's like the way that he assumes a lot of things about what people like and what's good art. He assumes, and I know that that's what his own personal perspective, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot for me to take. Like I don't know. And yes, it does feel good sometimes to see people just like taken down. Great. Art criticism is trolling. But like the greatest art critics don't have to troll like Roberta Smith. Like, like I don't know. I'm not a fan. And I don't know now if he's going to set up anonymous accounts or he doesn't even have to. He just trash both of our shows from now on. But anyway.
All right. Well, I did tell Matt Serletti that I was going to read the review on the podcast, and I found it
Okay. Yes,
because
go ahead.
this
Okay.
is an example of like the Manhattan Art review that like could be very offensive, but I also think is very hilarious, and also could be a good review, but couched as a bad review. So it's Matthew Serletti, end of the line at Carmel.
Okay. Read it.
Okay. Pure
Hmm.
perverse fetishism. Totally abject and disgusting. It's actually kind of interesting how aggressively revolting it is. For some reason, the insane high resolution effect aggravates my visual snow and makes my head hurt. The effect is odd, being entranced by how much I dislike these paintings where most bad art doesn't hold your attention. But I can't say that improves it much. Aside from being perverse, it's glacially cold, like some S&M thing, or even actively threatening to the viewer. Instead of the eye being drawn into the painting, it's like the images are assaulting you. Jesus, what a creep. This makes Balthus feel wholesome by comparison. And I
Yeah.
love
Okay.
that. See, I love that he's like I actually read that and I wrote to Matt and I was like, this is an amazing review. Like I feel like
Yeah.
he's actually sort of saying your paintings are really affecting. Like they really like got under my skin and made me feel something. And I'm like, that at the end of the day is like what good art really does.
Hmm. So what do you think of what he thinks about Balthus's work from
I think
that?
he thinks Balthus's work is creepy, but he's like, whoa, Matt's work is even creepier than Balthus, which I think is also amazing. Like everyone thinks of like Balthus's work as being really super creepy, but like if you can out creep Balthus, like that's, I feel like that's important.
Because I think he probably likes Balthus, and he's trying to find an excuse to like, I don't know. And I also just that fetishism. So is he being serious about fetishism or he's being sarcastic about fetishism?
But that's also what I kind of liked about that review too, is I wasn't real like part of me
Couldn't
felt
tell
like
if
he
it was just a
secretly
troll.
loved it. Like it's almost like wink wink. Like you know,
Yeah, but I mean, why leave it up to us to like figure out? Like, is he just trolling? Like, he actually is he inhabiting like the voice of a critic who is being like, is he being sarcastic? Is he? I mean, don't you
I
think
think
we
he's
need to
actually
know?
mirroring his own reflection. I think that he probably is a creep himself
Okay.
and like sees himself in the artwork and it's very Jungian. It's like he's really sort of absorbing his own like selfhood through the mirror image of the artwork and then but then that's his shadow side, so he has to sort of criticize what he doesn't want to accept in himself. That's my psychoanalytic.
And don't you think a good critic, like we could actually answer some of these questions about like whether or not he's being like legitimate or he really truly feels so when he says disgusting fetishism or whatever or like first of all, why is fetishism bad? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just asking, like he makes these assumptions about, and I know that that's what he particularly feels, but like, why are these things bad in artwork? Like, I don't. He always just like launches right into like this whole worldview of what artwork should and shouldn't be, and like I can't tell if he's trolling, like, or I'm the idiot for actually wanting a critic to say what they think and like stand by
Well,
it,
I
or
think
he's
he
just
is saying
scared.
what he thinks, but I think that I can read sort of between the lines of it of that I think that he's acting like he hates it, but I think he secretly really loves it. Which is
So
what I think makes it interesting. That's why I'm so obsessed with this review. Is I was like, at least he's
no,
not described. Someone said to me that they had a very quote successful show. They got a lot of reviews, but they said all the review is disappointing because all the reviews were just descriptions of the work in the show. Like no one actually said anything if the show was good or if it was bad or whatever. And that is something I like about the Manhattan Art Reviews. At least he's like saying like, this is good, this is bad. Like I like this. I don't. It's very subjective, and there's something about that I think is refreshing and interesting.
no, and I understand. I get that, and I understand that that is kind of refreshing. But I feel like I don't know when he says this is good or this is bad. I don't know where he stand. Like I can't tell. I can't read enough about like if he's making fun of me, if he's making fun of the artist, or like he's not like he's vague enough in a certain kind of way that I don't. I,
So
I
you
it
don't think he's sincere enough?
I can't tell. I can't tell if he's being sincere. I feel like he's setting me up to like be pissed off about it, and then he'll flip it and be like, "Oh, I
Maybe
was
that's
just
good.
a play on words," like I was
Oh,
just
do you think he has a British accent like
but then
this?
because
Sean Tattle.
doesn't that undermine the whole stance of shooting from the hip if I don't know where your fucking hip is? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like
I don't know.
I can't give someone credit for shooting from the hip if I don't even know
You don't
where
even
they're
know where their hip is.
just
Okay, fair
once
enough. Fair
you're
enough.
telling me that fetishism is bad, and I don't know if you
Fair
mean
enough.
that or not. You know,
All right, we should probably wrap it up because now we're at
okay,
an hour and
now we're
20
like
minutes and we
late.
don't want to
Okay.
bore everyone with this. But
Yeah.
I think
All right.
this is
I'll
good.
probably
And I
go
think that
to
talking
sleep.
about criticism is important.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All
All
right. Well, have a
right.
good week and I'll see
You
you
too.
soon.
See you
All right.
soon.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.